So, in quite a cluster of films right from the beginning of the decade, we're going to jump forward a few years to the middle. And the first appearance on film of a certain Mr. David Jones, Scott.
Yes, in The Man Who Fell to Earth, where a thin, white, dukish gentleman stumbles down a slag heap in the opening of The Man Who Fell to Earth, which is also a reasonably accurate character summary of the overall film. Said man is, of course, David Bowie, here playing Thomas Jerome Newton, at first glance a peculiar gentleman who sets about registering and exploiting a series of advanced technological patents. Although before long, and as is implied by the title, we discover that he is in fact an alien from a planet in the middle of a severe drought. So, aided by Buck Henry's patent lawyer Oliver Farnsworth, he sets up a company to build high-tech contraptions, making a ton of money that he then sinks into research into space travel. Basically, Elon Musk's life story then. He's looking for a way to develop a way to ship water back to his planet, but there are forces out to stop him. Ultimately, it's implied to be the government, who get wind of his true nature after a tip-off from Rip Torn's Dr. Nathan Bryce, a roguish employee who had become something of a confidant to Newton. However, this only happens after Newton has worn the mask of humanity long enough to start becoming human and falling prey to some of the same ills that have fallen many of us. He meets and forms a romantic relationship with Candy Clark as Mary Lou, who introduces him to the concepts like alcohol and television, to which Newton becomes addicted, which is more thoroughly encouraged by his captors in the final stretch of the film. Now, there is, on paper, not an awful lot of narrative to stretch over the 2.25, I think, hours of film. Have we mentioned that films were paced very differently in the 70s? But as with a good few of the films on tonight's roster, the narrative is largely a crowbar to get into the character's brain. In the main, this is a study of alienation, quite literally, I suppose, and isolation, and there's a pretty incredible turn from Bowie, although there's an argument that he's playing a very thinly veiled version of himself at the time in this film. There's a few aspects that haven't aged very well. The alien planet strain system in particular, although to be scrupulously fair, I'm sure even at the time it looked like a rejected Bolts of Wood primary school production cast-off. However, The Man Who Fell to Earth is not particularly concerned with any of the special effects or the falling to earth part of things, and is rather more focused on the man himself and how that reflects on wider humanity. That, it seems, is more or less ageless to our eternal discredit. So that, combined with a striking visual style, some complex characters who swing between sympathetic and obnoxious, solid performances, and an intriguingly enough unfolded narrative, makes this well worth catching up with, have you not already done so. Yes, I quite like this. I've seen this a couple of times, and each time it's never been a film that's, absolutely blown me away. It's never been on like my top tier film list or anything like that, but I've always appreciated it every time I watched it. It's got a nice visual style. It's got some good performances from people that I like an awful lot, and the central concept of the kind of humanity encroaching and corrupting this fella is something that's always kind of nothing that's really aged particularly poorly. It seems to be relevant at pretty much any point you could actually hope to watch it. So yes, definitely worth taking a look at if you haven't done so already.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this before. I was really quite looking forward to it, and I was aware to. We talked, what was that? Something we covered fairly recently, I think, where David Bowie must have been in it, and I remember saying at the time, I had a pretty good hit rate for David Bowie. I don't think I've seen him in any film that I hadn't liked him in.
Labyrinth, maybe?
That could be it.
Yeah.
That would make sense. It's a fairly recent David Bowie thing. Yeah, that record's broken now, unfortunately. I just didn't get on with this, and I'm not sure why. I mean, I can see those themes in there, but I just don't think I cared about anyone or anything. I couldn't really get a hook into this film. It's annoying, honestly. This is a frustration. I know that's what it feels like to be normal people and not remember things. I can't remember why I did like it, but like I say, I have been so ludicrously short of sleep in the last week or two that I think it's actually affecting my memory. I don't know. I can close my eyes and picture pretty much any scene in the film, no problem. But I can't really remember any feelings about it because I don't really think I had all that many.
Yes.
The whole turn of like him suddenly being captured and imprisoned, that kind of bothered me because it didn't feel like it made a lot of sense. Like somebody gave them a tip of, why would anybody think that? Anyway, that's.
Yeah, there's a sort of setup where the doctor's kind of gotten wind of it and takes some like infrared or X-ray photographs of him, which presumably reveals alien anatomy and all that sort of stuff. So it is set up, but it's not. You could quite easily, if you walked out of the room for like 20 seconds, you'd have missed that setup entirely, which would make the last hour a bit confusing, I would think.
Yes. I think I must have honestly, maybe I had like a wee 10-second micro sleep or something, because I remember him taking the photograph, but I never actually questioned why, and I just thought he was interested, but I think my attention must have just wandered at that wrong point. But I don't know, I can absolutely see all the themes in there that you're talking about, Scott, and more. It's like alienation and like the corruption of humans, and I guess there's loneliness too. Mm-hmm. See, there's all that kind of parallel story of like his family are dying, but I was never quite sure whether he's a jackass for basically just abandoning them, or whether maybe they're actually already dead, and that's kind of in the past. It's juxtaposed differently. Not that it really matters. It just changes how you think about the character a wee bit. So I can see all those films in there. Just it left me cold. And it's quite interesting to look at. The colours are quite interesting, even if 1970s decor is beyond hideous.
Yes.
That hotel room that he's in, and there's that room with like the painted the monkeys on the wall and stuff, and I think I can appreciate this is nicely shot, but what they're shooting is hideous. Please take it away. Yes. I honestly don't know what to say about this film. It didn't grab me.
Fair enough. I guess not every film needs to, but yeah, as I say, it's never really one of my top tier films, but I do revisit it now and again, every decade or so, and I still find enough in here to like. Yes, I like it well enough, but I wouldn't ever claim that it's going to be in my top films list. No.
So I'm almost tempted to go back and watch it again, given that I know that I've missed at least one thing, because I wasn't even awake enough to wondering why he was I remember him taking the photographs that you hide in that wee panel. I've never questioned why. Yes. I realised that I perhaps was just half asleep through that entire film. I may actually have to go and look at that again, because I now just found that it sounded like an absolute ill-informed moron, so I don't like that.
Yes, it's not the most well signposted bit of plot development that it has in it, so it is understandable. But yes, if you do watch it, I do recommend that you stay awake. That's
stay awake for films.
That's table stakes, that is.
I'm going to write that one down somewhere. That sounds like it might be useful, Scott.
Yes.